This is the CJ Werleman Show.
Hello, it's your friend CJ, and in this week's episode, we expose the nexus between Jeffrey Epstein and Israel's secret network of pedophile rabbis. But first, please remember to like and subscribe to our show, while not forgetting to turn your notifications on so you never miss a single episode. Now let's get into it. In a moment, you're going to see a lot of footage you've never seen anywhere before, specifically as it relates to Israel's secret network of pedophile rabbis. But before we get there, it's important we place any kind of new information in its proper and immediate context. And the context here is this, that while everybody was focusing on the Epstein coalition's war against Iran, Trump's Department of Justice quietly deleted another 65,000 pages of the Epstein files, therefore confirming what most Americans believe to be true, that both Trump and Israel launched this war to cover up the Epstein scandal, while bringing into light a prediction made by Jeffrey Epstein himself.
Epstein speculating that Trump, if cornered like a rat, could trigger a larger conflict, including bombing Iran, to create a crisis to try to rally public support back to himself.
Much to Trump and Israel's frustration, the Epstein files haven't gone away, because as American and Israeli warplanes bombed Iran earlier this month, several new pieces of information came to light. That Trump allegedly hosted Epstein's underage sex parties at his Mar-a-Lago property in the 1990s. That his wife Melania was an escort who was introduced to Trump by Epstein in 1998. And that a source close to the president and US intelligence officials murdered Epstein in his prison cell because he was deemed an intelligence risk. But none of this newly leaked information comes as a shock to Israel's intelligence agencies, given Epstein's ties to Mossad and former Israeli leaders have been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt.
First, it's worth explaining what the documents show. There's evidence of a close friendship between Epstein and Ehud Barak. Ehud Barak was the former Prime Minister of Israel, but he also had a decades-long career in military and the intelligence services. So Epstein served as an advisor to Barak, and he was facilitating introductions to tech investors and financial firms.
When you piece all of this data together, you're left with only one undeniable conclusion, that Netanyahu had enough Epstein-related dirt on Trump to drag him into a war that he did not want and initially rejected, which said Trump was strong-armed by the Israeli Prime Minister. Therefore, the Epstein files explains his coercive powers over Trump, remembering that Netanyahu had tried and failed to sell his war to 4 consecutive US administrations, but on each occasion was strongly rebuffed based on US military assessments of Iran's capabilities.
Well, you're absolutely right. When I was secretary, it was a constant, theme by Netanyahu and his then government, the then defense minister, Ehud Barak, the former prime minister. It was relentless. It was a constant push. I remember...
what would he say to you?
What?
What would he say to you?
He would basically say, you need to support us in attacking Iran.
The conclusion that Netanyahu used Epstein-related dirt to drag Trump into a war against Iran carries extra weight when you weigh a new bombshell claim made by a former Israeli intelligence officer on Monday, who said Netanyahu could use unseen Epstein material to sabotage the US-Iran peace deal, a desire built around the fact that Israel has failed to achieve not one of its military objectives.
If there's a real deal between the Americans and the Iranians, and it's going towards that, Netanyahu will try to sabotage it. One of the ways he'd sabotage it is by putting out Epstein material against U.S. government officials, including Trump. And he put it out there. New material that wasn't seen before in public.
So it's not just Trump. I know that Howard Lutnick is mentioned. There are other officials.
And not just Trump, other officials too. Yes. And he'll try to sabotage the whole negotiation and deal that would be that they're trying to make together.
Last year, a prominent Israeli rabbi writing for the Times of Israel claimed that Netanyahu had Epstein-related kompromat on Trump in his possession, and that the Israeli leader had threatened to release it if he didn't get his way.
So here we have a rabbi. He's a blogger for the Times of Israel, Yosef how would you say that? Yanoski? All right, we'll go with that.
We'll go with that.
Trump and his administration criticized Netanyahu and Israel, he writes. Quote, and now the Epstein files are haunting him. For a long time, the files had subsidized in the background, but they were considered to be a much more threat to Trump. All of a sudden, right after he started up with Israel, the files surfaced, and they seemed to be overwhelming him, he writes. He continues, now some old files are threatening him. Perhaps Trump will realize that it really doesn't pay to start up with Israel. Because when by divine providence, things that were hidden become revealed, it enables people to correct their mistakes and to endeavor to live their lives properly, the way God, with a dash, wants them to.
This same rabbi also published details of Netanyahu's persuasive phone calls with Trump on May 28th, which begs an obvious question. How and why does an Israeli rabbi have inside knowledge of the nefarious ties between Trump, Epstein, and Israeli intelligence? Well, let's start with the fact that Epstein's ties to Jewish Israeli rabbis runs through two main intersections, starting with the Wexner Foundation, a prominent Jewish leadership program that has doled out fellowships and grants to hundreds of Zionist rabbis during the past 2 decades. Notably, Epstein served as a trustee on its board in the 1990s and early 2000s. This is why the Wexner Foundation tried to get the media off its back by launching a public relations campaign in April of this year, whereby it began providing financial aid to survivors of sexual abuse and exploitation. The attempted cover-up failed because just 2 weeks ago, on June 3rd, a lawsuit was filed against the Wexner Foundation's owner, retail billionaire Leslie Wexner, by 11 women who claimed they were sexually exploited by Jeffrey Epstein. The suit, filed in the New York Supreme Court, alleges Wexner gave the sex trafficker $200 million, a 6-story New York City apartment, and a private jet, all of which the plaintiffs say were used for the trafficking of underage women.
So tell us more about their relationship.
So Epstein was advising Wexner since the early 80s. He was introduced to him by the guys at Bear Stearns. He was vetted by him. He was a casual advisor. And then by the early 1990s, Wexner actually granted him power of attorney, which we all know is a very rare thing to do with a financial advisor. And he had that until 2007, when all these accusations and Epstein started to get into really big trouble. Wexner has tried to remove himself from the Epstein narrative, but the reality is he made Epstein very rich. And so the two men have been intertwined and have affected Wexner's legacy as an entrepreneur and a person who really built a lot of Ohio over the last 40 years.
What do we know?
Leslie Wexner is the key to understanding the nexus between Epstein, Israel's secret network of pedophile rabbis, and Israeli intelligence, as confirmed by a recently released recording which was published in February showing former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak talking with Epstein about how to open the door to the mass conversion of non-Jews to Judaism to ensure Israel never loses its Jewish demographic majority. This is the same Ehud Barak who not only received millions of dollars from Leslie Wexner, but also visited Epstein's infamous island more than 30 times in a 4-year period spanning 2013 to 2017. The circle is now complete, because here we have Israeli leaders conspiring with the world's #1 sex trafficker, who was the #1 beneficiary of an organization that doled out fellowships and cash to hundreds of Israeli rabbis. This Zionist network of child sex abuse has corrupted and perverted every level of Israeli society, starting with the Zionist army, which has a long history of appointing rabbis who permit and even encourage the rape of Palestinian men, women, and children. We are talking about the systematic use of rape as a weapon of war against an occupied people, as illustrated by Israel's top rabbi blessing Israeli soldiers accused of raping Palestinian prisoners in Gaza, telling them they did nothing wrong. This rabbi is not an anomaly. His job is to sanctify the Israeli military's most heinous and depraved crimes. He carries the torch for those who came before him, including Rabbi Colonel Ayal Karim, who was appointed by the IDF Chief of Staff to be the Zionist Army's top religious authority. He said that although sexual intercourse with a female Gentile is a sin, it's permitted during wartime against an enemy, because it lifts the spirits of Israeli soldiers. Now let that wash over you for a moment. The man who ruled that soldiers may rape non-Jewish women for morale purposes was tapped to be the moral and spiritual leader of one of the most heavily armed militaries on the planet. A military currently engaged in genocide against civilian populations in Gaza and southern Lebanon. Which is why Israel's leading rabbis are delivering scripture that explains why mass killing is so addictive.
When you do mass killing of wicked people, after the actions follows the heart. When you kill the first one, it breaks your heart. Second one, a little bit less. Third one, a little bit less. At one point, you begin to like it.
Israel's use of rape as a weapon against Palestinians has finally caught the eye of the New York Times, which published this damning article accusing Israel of employing systematic sexual violence that is widely practiced as part of an organized state policy. But Zionists responded to the article by holding protests outside the newspaper's head office and in the streets of North America.
I fucked your sister. Nice pussy. Thank you for saying that. Wow. Oh, did you hear that?
Thankfully, their vile right to rape protests have fallen on deaf ears, given the United Nations has added Israel to its blacklist of countries engaged in conflict-related sexual violence.
Firstly, the Israeli Armed and Security Forces, namely the Israel Defense Forces, Israel Prison Service, including the Qatar Special Forces, and the Police Counter-Terrorism Unit, Yamam, are listed on the basis of credible information indicating continued patterns of rape and other forms of sexual violence, with an increase in the number of verified cases this year.
As the saying goes, the violence you dish out abroad is the same violence that eventually follows you home. It's a lesson all empires of the past learnt the hard way. This history explains why Israel has become the official rape capital of the Middle East, in which 230 women are raped every single day on average, with underage girls accounting for nearly 50% of reported sexual abuse cases. Palestinians, of course, are their primary victims, according to an Israeli human rights group, which found that more than 40% of children are sexually assaulted one way or another. This sanctification of rape by Israel's leading rabbis also partly explains why 92% of rape investigations are closed without charges laid, and why 75% of convicted sex offenders are released from prison early. But Israel's rape victims extend beyond the Palestinian population, given Israeli soldiers rape and sexually assault anyone who stands up for Palestinian rights, including European and Australian Gaza flotilla activists who were sexually assaulted by Israeli soldiers while trying to deliver humanitarian aid.
When I was dragged onto the prison boat and cable tied behind my back and pushed down, they said my name. Again, they said, "Welcome to Israel. Are you enjoying this now?" It was a dark room. There was 5 Israeli soldiers in there. I could see the silhouettes of them. The largest man was the one who wrenched down my trousers and my underpants and ripped me from behind. My daughter, Isla, ran up to me. My real fear was what the Israeli occupation forces would do to her.
Israel's secret network of pedophile rabbis also extends to Europe, Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom. In the UK city of Stamford Hill, rabbis raped a girl inside the synagogue. But when they approached the top rabbi, he told them to stay silent and never call the police.
Come to you, to be honest, about a very delicate issue. Someone who did bad things to me when I was younger. Someone who you may know of. Who abused me when I was younger, when I was a child. And I'm looking for your advice, to be honest, what to do. I think it's someone you might have dealt with in the past. I think it's someone you might have dealt with in the past.
I imagine I know whom you are talking. And if I'm correct, we are dealing with. So
how is it being dealt with?
Under control.
It's under control. Are you involved in it with him? Are you involved in it, in dealing with it?
I was involved, but
Would you think maybe is it a good idea to speak to the police about it? No? Why?
This is
a very serious issue.
Yes, not.
Oh, please.
Sure.
If one thing is clear, then we haven't seen the last of the Epstein files. Certainly not now that Israel is desperate to ensure there's never a lasting US peace deal with Iran, Hezbollah, or Hamas. Israel is a war criminal state that will not be deterred from pursuing its Greater Israel project, certainly not until it's ultimately defeated and dismantled. And we will be here to cover every step of its eventual and inevitable demise. But we urgently need your help, remembering that the Israeli lobby successfully pressured YouTube into demonetizing our channel 6 months ago. Therefore, we kindly ask that you please support our effort to expose and confront the Zionist lobby and other injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member of our show at patreon.com/CJ Werleman. We can't produce, sustain, and grow the show without your help, and we offer exclusive content, analysis, and other benefits to those who do. So whether you're watching or listening, we wish you a good night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.